Bilal, are we doing the recording? Is it? Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I think it's a wonderful holiday for some, a working day for some. I think happy Gudi Padwa to everyone. Uh, with this, I think today is a very interesting session for us. I think in today's world, the client is the essence of every game, and with that, I think it's very important to keep the client at the utmost and the foremost position. So, how do you create value for your clients? Is today what Dr. Raja Samartha will take for us, and it's an intriguing session. I think I look forward to it definitely. I hope you guys would definitely be able to get good benefits out of this entire session. So with this, I think I'll just hand over the stage to Govind. Give an introduction to the entire event. So Govindji, over to you, please.
Muted. आप muted है.
Govindji, you're on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful.
Today we have the pleasure of having with us President of the Society. Normally, President is not there in most of the study circle meetings because there are many other programs going on. So may I request the President to say a few words today and subject is very interesting today because if you recall that I have always been saying that chartered accountants should render value-added services. Now today you have another version of that value-added services, creating value. So, President sir, a few words from you.
Yes, thank you, Govind bhai. Good evening, Govind bhai, KKG, and conveners Gracie and Ryan, and office bearer Mihir. So I welcome all of you to this study circle meeting, and which is very relevant, as Govind bhai mentioned. It's very relevant in today's scenario. And BCS is an organization which is there for 72 years and always trying to add value to its participants and chartered accountants and the professionals at large. And today all professionals, including chartered accountants, are looking for a value addition to their clients. One of the reasons is the compliance practice is either reducing or it is becoming non-remunerative. And value-added services, as far as chartered accountants area is concerned, value-added services in the area of internal audit, due diligence, mergers and acquisitions, advisory services will always remain in demand, and they will always be an earning proposition for the professionals. And the point is, my point is whether we are prepared for it. And this is a subject on which I am sure today's speaker, Dr. Raja, will elaborate or explain his experience. He's also a professional, he's also an advisor, and he will explain us how to prepare for these value-added services and value addition to our clients. With these brief remarks, I welcome you once again, and over to Govind bhai. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Friends, whether you are doing this internal audit services, accounting services, auditing services, managerial services, even if you are doing these compliance services, there also how to add value even in compliance services. That we'll understand once we listen to Dr. Raja. And Dr. Raja, we have a very good, very long association with you. We have been hearing you for last several years. You have trained many of our chartered accountants. And today, after your talk, we all will understand how to add value to our services. The client should recognize. Client must recognize what services chartered accountants are rendering and how to value those services, not in terms of money, but how to honor the chartered accountant that the value the services which he is rendering, the value thereof. So, Ryan, over to you. Carry on. Riyan?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I should have known. Okay, so thank you, Suhas. Thank you, Govind, for that wonderful introduction to the session. I think this, brings us to an amazing start for the entire event. Yes, so this brings us to the introduction of the speaker. So Dr. Raja Samartha is a founder and chairman of a pioneering consulting firm in India called Interlink. It is specially focused on pharmaceuticals, nutraceuticals, and wellness industries since more than 3 decades. Being a thought leader in pharmaceuticals and nutraceuticals, he is adding value and creating an impact on performance of Interlink clients with a team of 125 Interlink consultants. That's a huge deal. Interlink services are spread from regulatory to go to market, making them sizable players. In other words, Interlink is focusing on converting science to business. He is an MSc, MMS, PhD, and FRSA. He is also a PhD guide and on board of studies of BCP, SNDT, Kohinoor Management Institute, and teaching postgraduate students in IIM, JBIMS, NMIMS. He is also on the panel of Nutraceutical Mission of CSIR, member of ITF, and vice president of HADSA, a dietary supplementary body in India. In his last 4 decades of his career, he has authored and co-authored 11 books with international publishers like CRC Press. 12th book on health will be in the hands of readers by 2021 from Elsevier. Besides numerous articles that he has published in various reputed journals, he is also beginning and he is maintaining balance between academics and business. He's also focusing on teaching, training, and consulting as a process. More than 15,000 pharma executives have been trained by him, and this is since the last 5 years. And since then, he has been adding value to students, pharmacy, and management students. We firmly believe in life life you have the reasons or results. With this, we welcome Dr. Raja Samartha, and we look forward to a wonderful session. Over to you, Raja.
Thank you very much. Now, I would like to go to the my presentation, but before that, I must thank Suhas, Govind, Riyan, and also Gracie, who has really approached me. And as you have slightly said or seen, or let's say observed what Govind was saying, yes, I am associated with from this Chartered Accountants Association since Mr. Narayan Verma's time. And we did a lot of good work that time. Now, I would like to really get into the today's thought or thing. With my presentation. Just give me a little time so I can really work on the presentation. And is it seen now by all of you? No?
Not yet.
Can it be seen by all of you?
No, we can only see your desktop. Now we can.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay. Right, so I think as Riyan said in the beginning, that yes, it's a good omen today, auspicious day today, as it's a new year day, and obviously something new which we would like to do. And perhaps it's a very befitting subject today for me is creating value proposition for your client. I would like not to give more emphasis on that all of you know that how important is client and how do you really approach him. Please feel free to really talk to me anytime or keep it on chat so that I can give you answers at the end of my session. At this moment, I can't see you, you can't see me. So yet I would like to really discuss with you. And sometimes it's a very good practice for those who are in sales profession where we don't see the client's face. And yet you can see that a client can talk to us, you can feel him, and you can really support him and service him. Now, let's look at it from the point of view of the profession. I am not a chartered accountant, so please don't consider that I will give you the solutions. I would really catalyze with you. I will only try to really make you think more about yourself. And that's what is my today's session is. Now, I just looked at the profession as I have a chartered accountant. I have a, let's say, sort of auditor, internal, external, because 36 years I'm in consultancy. We had only 5 Indian organizations during that time: Tata, Kirloskar Consultancy, Tata Consultancy, A.F. Ferguson, Anderson Consultancy, and so on. Now, at least we 2 are there, that is Tata Consultancy and Interlink. I don't equate with myself with them. We are a very small consultancy. Only thing is that, fortunately for me, I am in a health area. There is nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, wellness. And you are seeing this, how important is becoming, at least after COVID. You must be seeing how everybody is really looking at his own health and conscious about his own health and trying to really increase or improve his immunity. Now, immunity will be increased only when you do certain amount of really work on yourself. Similarly, when we are creating a value proposition, I think we need to work on ourselves. It's not going to come just like that for us. And so I would like to start with the kind of challenges, the way I see. You may have more challenges. The way I see the 5 major challenges for yourself. First challenge I see is the kind of, will technology replace need of CAs or shorten the receives or services of CAs? You need to think about it. What's really happening? Artificial intelligence is coming. Machine learning is coming. And also looking at both the things, you will find as the professions have changed, which I will take it up later on, the things are changing very quickly. If you had 10 things on your table today, there may be 5, there may be 4. And as it is, your table is shrinking. So this is going to somebody else. Yesterday, 20 years before, I used to think that IT is a technology is enabler. Now, it was on the periphery, but now it is at the center. I need to look at myself along with IT or the technology, and specifically in pharmaceuticals, we know very clearly how important is nanotechnology is, how important is artificial intelligence is, how important is drug formulation is. So I think all these things are very, very definitely changed. And this change has been brought in by the technology. All of you also should be aware or must be aware of that. Second is cybersecurity is becoming a priority. Now, if you have a confidential profession like yours, and if this confidential profession, you do not have cybersecurity, perhaps you will be also considered as not having a confidentiality, which is not your fault, but something may happen and something may go wrong. So I think what is more important is to look at this challenge more very specifically and prepare ourselves for that. Third challenge, according to me, are a fixture and furniture of a client and servicing the same client again and again, years after years. What I could see that you don't create a value or increase the value unless otherwise you really help him in other services. If the service remains same, your fees will remain same. So obviously, over a period of time, you'll find there has to be a mix of clients existing and new. If you see somebody who's getting established, such a chartered accountant or even doctor or even a lawyer, in all professions, we find the new clients come in, then we are starting the business. Repeat clients come in when we really establish a business. And also we get a kind of ratio of the clients. So I think one of the ways to look at this particular challenge is to look at how are we going to look at it. We are looking at it as client, proportion of clients, percentage of clients, and also where can we make increase in our value as well as increase in our fees. Fourth one is again a question to me, and that is it that you have so many stipulations, so many regulations, so many compliances? Is it that only for that you are required and not for servicing anything else? Think about it. I think that's also another way to look at yourself as a challenge. And last is, if so, how relevant are you to the client? Most crucial aspect of our profession, which is service profession, is that are we relevant? Do we have utility today? And also, do we trust enough? In other words, are we trustworthy enough from the client point of view? Whether we trust the client and client trusts us. I think this is very important aspect of trust. Trust is the most crucial aspect of business. And I think you may be definitely looking at trust as important aspect. Might not have thought about it, but you are behaving that way. It's a value. It's a most crucial value of any consultancy or any client-related organization or even a chartered accountant or any profession. So what I would like to say is that at all these 5 challenges, if I look at, I see that there are so many aspects which we have really seen and also happening around us. COVID is one of the example. Maybe after 100 years it comes, or whatever it is, that is coming by coincidentally after 100 years something else comes up like this. So considering this environment, which is important, how do you look at different professions? Now, before going to the professions, let me ask you a question. There may be many such challenges which you are facing. I do not know in details because I do not have the depth, but I can tell you from the outside that these are the challenges which we will have to face as a professional, and you may be facing in specifics as a chartered accountant. Now, if you look at the professions which have evolved, it's like chartered accountant is also a profession, it is evolved. It's not the same as it was earlier today. There is also a kind of fragmentation which takes place in every profession. Let's take the profession of even nurse, profession of a doctor, profession of authors. Authors, to give you an example very clearly, there's one mistake here. I'm sorry, it is layers written there, it's lawyers. So it's authors, basically, if you look at authors today, earlier, those who have really good kind of depth and insights, they used to write the books. Today, journalists write the books. Today, so many other people who have seen the kind of experiences or understood the business as well as intellect. And so they may not have any original idea, but yet they write the books. So it is by fragmented. Professionals, teachers, professors, they are also fragmented. Somebody was earlier teacher, today there is a facilitator, there's some trainer, some teacher, some professor. So I think all these things are bifurcated. Similarly, lawyers have been bifurcated in terms of fragmented. Consultants. If you join as a consultant, you are just consultant. If you have a group of consultants, you become a consultancy firm. If you do not give a consultancy, then you become an advisor. If you are not an advisor, you are a trainer. So people look at you differently. And that is where I think my basic question is when I'm looking at how are we going to create the value? Your perception, which I'm going to take slightly later on, but your perception, who are you, is very, very important in the eyes of the client. Similarly, affected by VUCA world. VUCA world is very vulnerable, very uncertain, chaotic, and also ambiguous. That is VUCA, which is, all of you must be very familiar with this word. But this word is very, very common today because we are in that kind of world, having black swans. Black swans is like Uttarakhand, anything unprecedented. Corona is a black swan. So I think these are the areas which are environmental factors are also affecting us, which might result in terms of discontinuity, gaps, and creating the different kind of emotional stress as well as mental stress on aspects of our business. Innovation and disruption through technology is continuously happening. I'm seeing in my industry. You must be also seeing in your industry. There are people who would like to really say, why should we have a chartered accountant? There may be like a brokers today. You will find brokers have no role today because they say, here is the advertisement, you will get a house without broker. So no brokerage. What I'm saying to say is that looking at this aspect, we are not in that particular situation or condition where we can be ignored. However, I think we must really look at the sense of this particular aspect very differently. Then changing knowledge and perception of customers and clients. Knowledge of our customers is changing. Younger generation is coming up. 2 generations I have served, 3rd generation I am serving, and I see a different and distinct difference between having a respect for a professional or not having a respect for a professional. Having a kind of the way you look at the kind of interactions with the 2nd generation, 3rd generation, and this generation, I think you will know that kind of even thinking and the pattern of thinking is changing and clients are changing. Similarly, proliferation of kind of information which is happening today. So if you have anything difficult to really understand, you just go back to the Google, find out what it is. So I think we are very, very inquisitive and getting answers also. So I would like to really give a thought here that please understand the profession is getting bifurcated, fragmented, and so there is an opportunity of becoming a niche. When I understood, perhaps when the kind of in the beginning of our today's session, somebody was talking about M&As, somebody was talking about business due diligence, somebody talked about financial due diligence. nobody talks about, but nobody had talked about, but I could say that forensic accounting, so many things are available today from the periphery. So peripheral aspects which you are considering yesterday, where focus was on center or middle, which was the actual standard chartered accountants practice. Now these peripheral issues are becoming more important, but that is what is needed by the clients. So let's look at what do we really do from the kind of client point of view. Now, how are you perceived as a client? And in business, perception is a very, very important issue. How are you perceived? Who you are is not important. But how are you perceived is important, because perception is important. Perception is created by perceived value, and perceived value when you have, then only you have a premium price or premium fees. Perceived value is higher than your real value, you get a premium. Real value is higher than your perceived value, you will not get a premium. Your real value is too good, so good you are excellent, let's say 24 karat gold in chips available, but you are unfortunately on the other footpath. And somebody is a hawker saying, okay, here is a gold, please take it, I'm giving you free. I think that's where the trust question comes up. Do I trust it is good? Do I trust it is safe? So I think perception is a creation of your continuous activities which you are doing. Amitabh Bachchan, who started his really career with Angry Young Men, over a period of time having so many, let's say, movies with Angry Young Man character, he became a kind of perceived as an angry young man. When he became old, he couldn't really position himself. He said, what can I do? And that's how his entire, let's say, whatever was his profession, whatever was his really leading role, it went off. He didn't have any role at all and came to the kind of zero. However, once again, he really resurrected or also expanded his own life by becoming KBC. And KBC became famous today because of his strength. And the strength is voice. And this voice and the Hindi language, these are the two strengths which he really ensured that becomes his core, and he really resurrected it back to again getting jobs and getting films, etc. So perception is something which you are creating unknowingly by your own activities, which you are consistently doing for all people whom you are really supporting. Value creation and impact. I think these are the two words are very great, very important. I would request for all of you who have clients, consider every year what's the value you have created for him besides whatever work you have done. Value has to be created in the, it's like price I am paying. I pay you is a price, but I receive something is a value. So when somebody's client is paying you, yes, is paying you. But what value is he getting, we are not knowing. So I think as in management, as a student, I would say, please ask your client his own feedback. Many times in your case, and our case also, timing becomes most crucial issue. If it is not done in timing, or the things are not happening in timing, then in that case, it becomes difficult for you to get a kind of good reference or no reference. So value creation and the impact is important from the point of view of financial aspect, from the point of view of a social aspect, from the point of view of government aspects, stipulations, statutory, there's an impact for it. Then are you essential, or are you urgent, or are you important? Sometimes it's essential, very, very essential. It is part of business. Somewhere it is urgent. I need this very urgently. I don't think this man will be able to do, that man will, okay, this chartered accountant will be able to do this. So you get labeled or pursued by the urgency and importance, very important. I think the important matter, let me give it to so-and-so. And that's where you find the niches have come. Somebody said international taxation, somebody said national taxation. So you have different kind of really creation of niches for yourself. Are you a problem solver? Whenever there is a problem, you are required to solve it, or are you a risk mitigator? Are you mitigating risk for him? So when he looks at you, he has already made up some sort of kind of aura or some sort of understanding of yours. So important for us to really understand what kind of perception we have. Now, from the perception, how do I create a value myself? And that's the topic today. What do I do to really create value for myself? It's a very good small, I would say, presentation where one side there's a client, other side there's a chartered accountant or any professional, and the kind of value creation happens only when there is a value proposition. Now, what is a value proposition? I'll get into that. But something which is important for you to communicate consistently. Now, do you do the work as work and keep on doing the work as first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, and the work is excellent, but value is not been created because he has not perceived you that well. He's not valued you that way. He has understood you are confidential, you are trustworthy, and you can do my work the way compliances are required, the way government wants. So it also happens in our industry. Many people in the manufacturing units, they are working because they want to comply with FDA or FSSAI or Ayush. These are regulatory bodies in pharmaceutical. They don't work for the company. For company, they are not really maintaining the quality. They are maintaining the quality as per the regulations for FDA. So I think that quick things that happens in man's mind. Who am I working for? Am I working for compliance? Am I working for client? So I think that kind of thought process at that moment is very important, because as a consultant, and if you are alone, you are one man show. If you are not and you have people, then I think you have three dimensions to look at it. Number one, yourself, your team, and your client. And all of three of them have to be profitable. If client is profitable because of your fees is a different issue, but you are not profitable. If you are not profitable, your team will not be profitable. So in other words, what we really get out of this entire thing is you don't create a value and you don't create a value premium for yourself. So looking at this small thought, I would like to put it this way. Okay, how do I really create a value proposition? And before that, what is that I need to do to create value proposition? It's a transaction, and every transaction in every business is very crucial. It's a transaction between you and the client. I would go slightly further to that as a decision maker. Somebody gives you the payment or check. These are the areas we need to look at it very critically. And at this moment, you must also see for whom you would like to work. There are values which are perhaps sometimes clashing with your values and the values of the client. Decide yourself what you would like to do. Would you like to work for that, having or compromising your values and doing something for him because of money or because of fees? I leave it to you. However, what works better, I can tell you, is a value matching. The values of the values and sincerity of a particular client and your values, if they're matching, you have a very good transaction with each other, understanding each other. We don't have to explain every time. So, and you must have also seen in your practice that yes, some clients, they tell you something or you suggest them something, it clicks quickly. So that's where the transaction is happening. The understanding is happened. So this understanding is a part of relationship. Now this transaction is a part of relationship. Relationship, to my mind, is a very simple thing. It's like a savings bank account in my mind. We have to deposit something every time and we have to withdraw something. If you are only depositing, I don't think it's a kind of understanding or relationship, because he will or person will say, yes, whenever I ask him, he gives it. Whenever I ask him, I gives it. But you have never asked him to give you something. Then in that case, whenever you ask sometimes, and sometimes people are very, very different while asking. They feel, how can I ask? And they don't ask. In entire life, they don't ask anything. There's no relationship. Relationship is two-sided, not one-sided. So I think when transactions comes in, when you have values matching, and when you have relationship, you find the transaction prospers. So most crucial aspect of your entire business is in transaction. Now I need to identify the transaction. That means for whom do I work? Who is the client? For whom do I work? And also how many such customers do I have? Do I have a, let's say, tax department? You have this statutory body? Do you have that? So I think you can map all your identified customers there, inclusive of your client. Client is one of them. So I think all the different identifications we need to do. I may have to really have relationship with 5 different people, which I have learned from our own industry. Our industry has 7 different, let's say, facets, because our industry is a socio-economic political industry. So obviously we have different ministries. We have to deal with 7 ministries. So with 7 ministries, when we deal, we find that there are different things, different aspects, how to deal with them, how to kind of form a relationship. What do I do? So I think identification is very important for me of a client, and all those which are required to really service the clients. They are my customers. It could be a customer chain also. Somebody may be a client, and from client you will get another contact and the other contact and third contact, and you prosper yourself. But please understand, all your contacts are your assets. Relationship has to be a strength. One of the strengths, if I do the strengths, weakness, and let's say opportunity, threats analysis of yours, we must do it. When I was in MBA, 1967, 70, we used to have one of the professors of ours. He used to ask us to make SWOT of ourselves. So please prepare a SWOT of yourself. And then you said, please prepare a balance sheet of yourself. And are you really creating assets, or are you having only liabilities? What are you doing? I think it's important at this moment to look at yourself first, because if you are there, everything is there. So that relationship, that transaction, that kind of, let's say, trust creation, and that's kind of understanding with all the customers which are required. And for them, you need to identify. If you don't identify and get in the wrong hands, you have a different kind of future. Second is, after getting the transaction prepared with the identified customer, you promote them. How do you promote? Because as we also cannot promote our products or, let's say, brands to the common people. We can't. There's a regulatory on us. We can't do that. But then promotion has to be word of mouth. Most important and very, very crucial medium is a word of mouth. And for all of us, like consultants or you, we have a word of mouth is more important. How people give a reference. So besides the client and customers, you should have a referrals. And the list of referrals is also equally important, but the referrals will give you the business. Referrals will tell you something. If you are getting the new client and your referrals are good enough, you will find 25% of business just goes as a result of your referrals. So referrals and word of mouth is a most crucial and important medium for us, not any other medium. And that's where the trust, your own past work, your own performance is more crucial. Third is facilitation. Facilitation is, how do I facilitate the work? Do I have a team? Do I not have a team? Am I doing alone? If I'm doing alone, if I have a less capacity, because team is a capacity building. I used to tell during that time when I used to take the chartered accountants, let's say sessions in Bajaj Institute from consulting, to tell, why don't you come together and make another good consulting firm? Like you have Deloitte, you have all these people, all people are chartered accountants, they're inside. Maybe, may not be, I don't know. But basically, together you have a very different kind of future. Alone, you have a different kind of future. It's up to you. I tried to do that with Chemist Association in Mumbai as well as in India. Try to do with Pharmacist Association. So people are very stronger when they are becoming together. I leave it to you. What is it important? But facilitation is important. Availability is important. Doing the work is important. The work of quality is important, the facilitation. And so the value creation is required. Value creation here, the word value creation is the repeat transaction. You create a value, then you start getting a transaction for it. But it becomes repeat. Then again, identification. So this cycle goes on because you have created a value and you are not going to, he is not going to leave you. So that's where part of this particular transaction business comes in. Let's look at now, what is this value proposition? Value proposition is a single statement that explains the value of business. A single statement. Who are you? We call it as an elevator's test. If I'm coming with you to 20 floors in the lift and you ask me, who are you? And if I cannot explain in 20 seconds or 15 seconds, the other person doesn't really listen to you because he says, who are you? And not for me, that kind of thing. So very, very simple statement. It does three things. Tells people what you do. If I say I'm consultant, so say, which consultant? If I say I'm teacher, oh, it's a teacher. Okay, all right. So understand. Then who do you do it for? For whom you do it? Students, children, elders, whom do you teach, right? And third is how you do it differently. Oh, yes, I have my methodology. I do it hybrid model. I do this, I do that, I do that. So what happens, the other person opens up so well. So I think we need to define ourselves. And the value proposition is your opportunity to make great first impression. So it's the value proposition, who you are, for whom you are working, and how different you are. How different is inverted commas, because that's the difference we need to make in our own all services. Okay. Good, sir. One of the good thing which I have, just because music is, everybody knows and everybody can say, simple. This Spotify is simple but powerful value proposition. Not only speaks about what they provide or provide music, but also for whom they do it and for everyone. If you look at the vision of even our biggest park, children's park, they say we make people happy. That's it. So we need to really decide what is that we would like to create as a value proposition. Now, crux is, how do we create? Yes, all right, I need to create a value proposition. I have value proposition, I need to sharpen it. Excellent. So how do you create a value proposition? First, identify your leveraging factors in competition through your SWOT. What I told you, one of the SWOT factors which I have seen with consultants or services, those who have offered services, is a relationship, is a networking. How is a networking? Networking for business, networking for not business, networking for contractual agreements, not working. So I think a lot of things are there available for you once you do the SWOT of yourself. SWOT is something, strength, what you have within you, or within your team, or within your company, and also measurable, not the feeling. Strengths are something which are within you, measurable. If they are not, you cannot measure, then I don't think they are your strength, they are your feelings. Weaknesses, again, what you have and which you can measure. Weaknesses could be also developmental needs. Opportunities, what you have, you are seeing it. And many times when you really get into a kind of profession like chartered accountancy, like our profession, like consultancy, we do not know what are we leaving. And from that leaving small dots, we get assignments for ourselves. Somebody calls you, can you do this? Can you do this? And you should be absolutely frank enough. Yes, I can do or I cannot do it. But give him something. Give somebody whom you know, who can really do that job. Don't see that, okay, if I don't get it, then I don't have anybody. No, I think this is where the networking will work. Networking economy will start. Networking economy is like cancer economy, is a networking economy. All the people are, sort of put it into a picture in the same platform, and they are really getting value from everything. It's a value chain. So please start make a value chain from the point of your strength. So you start leveraging your factors. Map client needs and your services. Do they match? If they do not match, if you know the client and if you're talking to client and client gives you so many things, I need to do this, I need to do this, map there. Can you do this? Can you really ally with somebody and can you do this? Because you are important for the client. The alliance is not. So obviously together, can you do it? Map at least 3 years, last year's impact of your services on the client. That will give you identity. Create strategy for retaining the clients and attracting new clients. Our business, at least my business, is almost 60% is from existing clients. 60% of my business comes from existing old clients whom we have serviced. 10 years after that, people come to us and say, doctor, I think this is what I need to do now and you will have to do it. Many people say, no, you are my consultant now. How do you do it? You tell me. Right from conception to reality. So in other words, I think we create that kind of niche for ourselves by our behavior. And also you can create a niche on the basis of your strengths, what you have. Those niches can be created. Then creating knowledge, leadership position for yourself. Knowledge creation you are doing every time. There are many things like books is not the books alone. Books is also thought leadership thought. Books is also documenting certain things. We run Interlink Insight every 3rd month and it goes to all chief executives of our clients. They know what's future like to be. How do we deal with the future? So I think we really create that kind of an atmosphere in his mind. Okay, there's some problem if I have, I can go to Interlink or get to Dr. Smarta. So I think create that kind of knowledge leadership for yourself, which is possible by your seminars, talking to people, getting into the opportunities where you can talk to people and increase your own visibility. Standardize your knowledge to avoid reinventing wheel. Many times I've seen people, they reinvent the wheel because all standardized modules are there. Standardization knowledge has not been done. If it is done, you will find everything available with you in your own computer. Standardized service-wise, processes, system. Now this is very clearly, many times when you are alone or even a small team, the processes and systems are not really proper. So as a result, we really find it difficult to deliver in time. Essential and if sufficient criteria is managing your time. I'm sure this is the most crucial issue. And I would like to end up with these two parts, basically time and your own health. Because I know, I just make maybe a small, I would put it this way, exercise I give you. Write down the age at which you want to retire. You don't have to tell anybody. Just give the number, maybe 100, maybe 120, whatever years you want to retire, or do not want to retire, whatever it is. But I think write down that number. But before writing down or after writing down, consider that if you are not healthy, then can you really do this? So I think health and also your number should match. Minus your existing age. Put down that number, maybe 80, 70, 80, whatever number. Minus your existing age. Whatever will be remainder, that remainder, multiply that by 300. And you will get some number. As we are chartered accountants, etc., etc. So we are familiar with the figures. So let's play with the figures. A year or age at which you want to retire, minus your existing age, remainder multiplied by 300. And you will see the number. This is a number what you have for whatever you want to do in your life now. These many days. Do not get questioned, do not get astonished. That is that many days are there for you. So that's the time available for your all drama, life drama, whatever life you want to play. So time is a very important issue. So how do you give time? How do you utilize time? How to make time for yourself is also important. And last is keep yourself healthy. If you are not healthy, I don't think you can create any value for yourself. Because it all depends on our health and do that, right? So can you develop your value proposition on the basis of that? Yes, provided you are with me or I could communicate. If I could not communicate, ask questions. I'm always open for any questions so that I think that will give you much more better understanding. And this is what we believe in telling that in life, either we have reasons or results. If you have results, we have no reasons. If you have no results, we have enough reasons. So that's where I think I would like to complete this thing. And thank you very much for giving me time.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope I could communicate what I could communicate, because I'm not a chartered accountant, but I thought that let me share my own thought process to give you this particular thing, right? Many
Wonderful.
questions if you have.
Yeah, I think so. We'll leave the floor open to the entire audience if they have any questions. So you guys can type it in the chat box. If somebody wants to in person ask a question, they can raise their hands and I will unmute them. Questions have started coming in. Okay, so I'll just read out the questions, Dr. Raja.
Yes. Please.
So of late, we have seen in the CA community that for providing some value-added services, the fees quoted is too low to be compared with the time involved in the service. Value proposition is created for client, but this is developing a very bad practice of unhealthy competition. What are your views?
I couldn't get you properly.
Yeah, I'll just read it again. So okay.
Yeah.
Of late, we have seen in the CA community that for providing some value-added services, the fees quoted is too low to be compared with the time involved in the service.
Yeah.
Value proposition is created for client, but this is developing a very bad and unhealthy practice of competition.
Yeah.
What are your views on that?
Yeah, I think if you really are creating value, then in that case, your services and the time which you are utilizing, I think you should be able to really make what is your fee, what is your value for 1 hour. What is your value for half an hour, time which you are spending? Because usually time, the work and the kind of state you are 10,000 rupees per hour or 5,000 rupees per hour, 2,000 per hour. I think those details you have created for yourself. Now, if you create a value added and you cost very unacceptable rate, I think you are lowering down the value proposition. It's not a value proposition. Its only value proposition is this is cheap. That's it. Whatever value you are adding, it is cheap. That's all. Nothing else you are adding. So value proposition, something is that, are you cheap or are you not cheap? And can I get it done as low cost as possible? It's not a good practice if you are doing that. But value proposition should increase your premium price. And one of the things which I have learned very different way. I am not a person who is going to charge you per hour. If it is per hour and multiply that, then in that case, I am giving you a rate as with the daily worker works. I am creating a value for you, and so I need to understand what value creating. If I'll give you an example, I am launching a new product, I am launching a new company. Now, when I'm launching, at that moment, you are zero. You are just investing in that company. But do I charge because you have no money? Answer is no. Because I am creating a plan for yourself which will give you multi-crores. So am I creating value for multi-crores, or I'm spending time for you? I think this is a question you should ask. And this value which I create for him, you must calculate in the beginning. So you can very well negotiate with the person. Otherwise, you can't negotiate. People will be asking for low price and low price and low price. Nobody in a research, I have found out that somebody wants to pay higher price. No, but they pay. They pay. Moment you create a brand, you get a more payment. Why? I had a client who had a very good perfume. It's excellent perfume he prepared, and he could not sell 200 rupees per bottle, 100 ml, 150 ml. Then I had to tell him, look, you don't have a brand, you don't have value, you are not perceived. Put it in Akbar Ali's, put it in this mall. And the same person just used to sell it to the mall during those times with Akbar Ali's, when malls were not there in Mumbai. And the same perfume was sold by Akbar Ali's at 1,000 rupees. He used to get his 200 back. So sometimes the kind of your prestige, your brand, also you need to create that brand. But please, if this is happening, please do not undercut ourselves. It's happening in exports of India. When one Indian manufacturer gives one price, another Indian manufacturer after 7 days gives another lower price. People have to wait for another 15 days and they give another lower price. So we are undercutting ourselves. That's not a value creation. If I understood the question, Rian.
Yeah, that's correct. So,
yeah.
So we have another question that has come in. I'll read that out. So is there scope for unlearning and venturing into new, for self-actuation? Or, is it advisable to continue the present practice by a young?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. I must thank him, because it's a question which you are asking. Do you have the strengths? Do not become Tendulkar at this age, considering that I can do it. No. Have a strength. Like as I've given you example of Amitabh Bachchan, he knows he had a strength of language and the voice. So maybe you have strengths. You may be having strength in, just harmonium. You will be having strength in something. Yes. And which will make you happy. Please understand. If you are happy while doing that and that profession or that passion you have, I don't think anything will stop you away. You will earn. Today, I was surprised. The other day I was reading. Today, who are making maximum business are the astrologers. Can you beat? They are making maximum business today. All people are thronging them. What will happen? What will happen? What will not happen? So you can look at this. Anxiety has been created in the minds of people. They say, when will I get new job? All astrologers, national, international, all astrologers today are fabulously busy and earning it. So it's a matter of your own strengths of yourself and opportunity. See the opportunity as strength, make a matrix. That is your directional matrix. Am I communicating?
Yeah. Okay, so there is another question that has come in. So result-oriented value proposition, how to link it with fees and results which you are going to deliver?
Yeah, that's what I told you just now. Maybe I have 3 months of research to be done. This 3 months of research will cost me manpower costs, etc. So costing I will do. This cost me suppose 3 lakh rupees. Now this 3 lakh rupees is my cost. I will add my let's say percentage of profit, etc. and the. Now this is what is the research you have done, the working of research. Do you understand what value it is creating for him? What are you giving him? Is in terms of research is done, but research is research. So I do not call in Interlink research is research because that does not have a value creation. But research analysis, research insights. So I don't give anybody the research. I give the insights of the market. When I say insights of the market, they are useful for you to immediately, tomorrow onwards, start it and earn. So what is the earning potential? So when I'm earning potential out of my 3 lakhs rupees is 30 lakhs, I won't charge him 3 lakhs. So I need to understand what value I'm creating for the client. If I'm creating higher value, please understand business due diligence, M&As. M&As usually the percentage is 2% of the kind of transaction. I don't know who has formed this rule. Minimum 25 lakhs around to whichever is maximum minimum. I don't know who has formed this rule. But the question is that, is it so 2%? These are the rules and people have stuck with those rules. So when I discuss with them, it's okay. You want to have business due diligence, you want to mitigate your risk, right? Now, if you want to do mitigate your risk, market risks are how many? Do you know market risks are there? Now, one of the ICICI venture, I made a business due diligence. When they were to pay one of the Ranbaxy 3 businesses, they bought it, and I was involved in it. We could save 40 crores of not buying one company out of that by telling, look, if this is or lowering down the cost of this acquisition. And we lowered the cost of acquisition. After 3 years, creating a new business kind of out of these 3 people, 16 people resigned from Ranbaxy, and we formed a new team. This new team, we had appointed CEO and also HR person. And after 3 years, we created a value. And the first business of, let's say, animal health, we sold it to Pfizer. Second business, we sold it another. And we became clean because ICICI Venture is not a pharma company. So value has to be created by your work, and they should understand it. Most important is communicate with it. You feel shy, I understand that. But I think it's important to really create, when you are creating value and you are very clear, don't charge as per the 3 lakh rupees. That's my suggestion. I leave it to you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Doctor. So I think there's another question that has come in, which is, can you give some examples of areas in which value addition is expected by the board of directors from internal audit?
Yeah. Now, board of directors today are looking at either sustenance or growth. Now, growth in terms of what dimension they require, I think that's important. So sustainability and growth, these are the 2 issues which at the board of directors level are important. Now, am I adding value to the sustainability of the business, which could be lowering the cost by 3 times, which could be improving the top line by 3 times, which could be efficiency buying. And many times what happens, cost is a leadership, sometimes cost leadership you need to take in that particular business. So you say activity-based costing, which has come up very recently. Do I do activity-based costing? Do I do the productivity of manufacturing? All the different things, if you go back into different kind of transactions which are happening in the organization, you will be able to find out your own way there, because it's not common. But basically, board of directors today are required these 2 things. How can I sustain my business? How can I grow my business? Now, growing my business, if I have a person who have investment capacity, I say, tell me which things I can buy. So today I would like to buy, because those days have gone 25 years before. I could start from 0. It's possible for me. But today, anything which I start with 0, I cannot say sustain. I need to buy over. So I need to have an investment. Now, this investment is possible only when I am assured that this business will grow. So there's a potential mapping. There's a kind of analytics. So analytics is another factor which you can really enter into. Business analytics, financial analytics, and also different aspects of business which are important from finance point of view. I think these are all the businesses these are all the areas in which you can concentrate, and areas like sustainability of the organization, business, and the growth of business. These are the 2 aspects which I feel which comes on top of my mind to really answer this question.
Yeah, very true, very true. So coming to the next one, this is a question from Praveen. Delivering present services is just compliance with little value addition, that too with compromise on quality of work and no improvement in standard of living for years. Can you comment on this statement?
Yeah. I think if I've understood it, if you can slightly, I could not hear you properly.
Okay, I'll just repeat it. Yeah, I'll just repeat it. So delivering present services is just compliance with little value addition, and that too with compromise on quality of work and no improvement in standard of living for years.
Okay. I think it's an excellent time for you to really upgrade yourself. You must hire a good young chartered accountant or people who are on possibly that exercises what you do, or writing articleships, and standardize this particular practice of compliance and give it to him, so that you are free to do something different and bigger than doing the same thing. You will not feel bored. You will not feel really getting cheated. So I think this is a service which is just a compliance. It's maybe a systems working. maybe even the way you can put it, your blinkers. Okay, now this is compliance, 5th is come, 7th is come, so you have to just pay. I think this is what sometimes a mundane activity. So you classify your practice by standardized, which can be done by others, do it. Gray hair practice that you do it, which is basically thinking about it, what is it, that practice is yours. Lower end is different practice, which where the communication is required per number of people, and last practice is standardized. So you categorize your service in such a way, so you will not feel bored. You will not feel you're getting cheated. You are not getting a feeling that, okay, I'm getting very less money. No, but you are doing that because today you do not have an opportunity to pass on to somebody else. But do that. You can have a good group of 3-4 consultants and put one person who will do the only compliance of 3 companies. What is wrong in it? Or 5 companies, whatever it is. That's my suggestion. I may be totally wrong.
Right. Okay. So moving to the next one, this is a very interesting one. In the case of for a client, CA service of taxation is forced on them. Okay. Clients don't look at value to them as it is poured out on them. How do we justify the value addition for these taxation services?
Yeah, if you can again repeat it, I'm hearing, in not continuity. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll repeat it. For a client, CA service of taxation is usually a forced activity. Client do not look at the value addition that is, given to them. How do we justify the value addition in case of taxation service?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. It requires a little bit of pre-planning with yourself. You need to really yearly look at it in the beginning of the year and tell him the kind of what taxation, what kind of value he can create by doing A, B, C, D things, which you are aware of. Now, these are the things which you need to really as a strategy for yourself to look at that and convince as well as communicate, discuss with your client. So he will understand how important what your steps you are taking in taxation. So it's not only the compliance you are thinking about, but you are communicating and saving his or providing his kind of different dimension to this taxation. Am I communicating? Rian, I can't see you.
Yeah.
Rian?
Yeah.
Have I answered?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So coming to the next one. So this is in case of recurrent services. Okay. The services which are provided year on year. How do you create value for a client where you actually provide the same service every year?
I think it's a very typical and very difficult question. Regular existing clients always lower our fees year after year. So that's a reality. It happens with the contract manufacturer. Everybody wants to cut costs, and cut costs is only the person who are perhaps very important, but I cannot do without them, but I have to, deal with them. So then there's the emotional card put in. You are for so many years with me. Why are you charging more, etc., etc. So I think somewhere during the process, you need to do your own reviews, maybe every 3rd month with the client. Okay, what is it going on? What is not going on? You must invite the reviews. The reviews provide a different kind of dimension and understanding of the client for you. And he's spending time with you, maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, not from the report point of view, what has happened, what has not happened, but out of the report, you must create a review process for yourself. The review process, what we used to call in our organizations like appraisal. Appraisal is to some extent creating that kind of niche for yourself and also finding out what he needs in this entire area. So his unmet needs are found out in reviews. So create 3 months review, 4 times in a month, 2 times in a month, doesn't matter. But then you can next time say, these are the additional work, sir, I have done. I want to raise my fees from here to here. So that additional work can come out from your reviews. Am I communicating?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think as of now, there are no more questions. Let's wait for a minute or two.
Yeah, sure.
So there's another one that's come in. So clients usually see us as government nominees to justify all laws, even though we don't get fully convinced with them. They make fun of impracticable procedures we have no convincing replies for them. So how do you convince your client?
Yeah, I think this is very, very important because that's where your value conflict is coming in. Or you also do not like it, perhaps. So first, if it is a value conflict within yourself, please resolve it. You also don't like that stipulation. Then resolve that among yourself in your mind first. Second is, do I have any alternative not to do it? You have to do it. Now, in that case, what you need to really do is the kind of your conviction, because that your conviction also reflects on communication, in communication with the people. So the first stop was thing, your conviction. Second is, yes, there are certain things which are really being placed upon or given to us as a narrative, as a mandatory thing. So do I have any alternative? So we need to look at from the comic angle. It's not, anything which is like that. I resolve it by jokes. The most important issue is to nullify the mind of the client. He doesn't want to do it. He wants to do it, but he will say, "Karna to karna hi hai na." We can't do anything. So I think one is the conflict resolution among ourselves inside, because you can't change others. You have to change yourself. Now, from that point of view, you change yourself, place it before him, and also make it as a joke, because you need to do it. There's nothing wrong. And there's a healthy environment there. That's what my practical suggestion.
Great. It's very, very, very true. Yeah. So there's no more questions. I think.
If any
for a minute. Sorry, you were saying something, Doctor? Sorry, there's another one that's coming.
Yeah, sure.
So it says that shall we standardize our fees for every type of service, or it should be more customized?
Yeah. See, I think customization will come only when you standardize the processes and systems. Customization is the tail end of any service. I may have a service where the processes are listed in terms of diagnosing a particular organization. Now, this diagnosis which I'm doing, these are steps, there are all the things are there. How do I customize it at the beginning or the end? Because that depends on the need of that customer and the kind of diagnosis which I do. After diagnosis, I understand these are the needs. It's like a motor mechanic. The systems processes are clear, but when he opens the car, he understands there are so many things to be done. So similarly, diagnosis process is like that. You look at your service, what is the nature of the service? And then looking at the nature of the service, decide what you want to do. You cannot change the nature of the service. So then customize it in the beginning or customize it at the end. Customization is just to give an example, is a furniture. Sofa is sofa. But when you are having a specific dimension of a particular house, you want to customize it, then customize it. Standardized sofa person has seen. So you can live, I want to have customization. So there's some image in the minds of customer or a client about that particular product. Catch that image. Sometimes I do certain things like you say, sir, if you have any old project, please tell me. So I understand what exactly you want. Because he said, no, I want this, which is just 10 page, just these. So he has seen something which we don't know. And we do this 10 page. He will say, no, this is what I don't want it. So after doing a lot of work, why do you want to do that? Instead, we say, okay, what is that? Really clarify with him what customization you want. Discuss customization. You can discuss customization when you have standardization. And then if you don't have standardization, you will get into the reinventing the wheel, looking at the client and client needs. It will be only one-time game. The same kind of customer will not come again, so that customization will not take place. Similarly, if there are no more clients coming to you for that particular service, don't do customization, don't do standardization. Then say advise. It's an advisory function you are doing, not customization of your consultancy. No, not chartered accountancy. No, you are doing just a kind of advisory. So charge advisory fees. That's a separate issue altogether.
Right. Okay. So I guess there are no more questions. Let's wait for a minute because we still have some time.
Yeah. I'm ready.
As I say, I think there's another question. So what client looks at before buying services, according to you?
Yeah, I think there are three pairs of buying motives. I call them as motives. it's not because we need something and we buy. No, not necessarily. And all the decisions which human being takes, 90% of them are emotional. Before that, they alternate, but at the end, they take, whatever it is. So there are three pairs of buying motives. First pair is simply when we really have desire to possess. So desire to possess, and if you have diamonds with you, the other desire comes the desire of approval, desire for approval. Very important pair for us as consultancy. Desire to possess, Deolite, desire to possess McKinsey, desire to possess, right? And the desire to show off. So are you coming in that category where people have a desire? You have created a brand for yourself in such a way that people would like to associate with you. They would like to buy that. They would like to get that. So I think there are a lot of branding money goes into it in our identification. So desire to possess and desire for approval. Second is very clearly that many times this motive is very clear for the people that either you lose or gain. Last day of the exhibition, people say the last day. Tomorrow onwards, so fear of loss and hope of gain. These are the two very prominent for chartered accountants. Fear of loss and hope of gain. Now, how do you really place it properly? If you don't have me, what's the fear of loss? What you lose? And hope of gain. What you have me, hope you have to gain. So fear of loss and hope of gain. And third pair is very clearly when you go in the hospital, in a restaurant, if you are thirsty, you will look at the menu of whatever you want to do, beverages. If you are hungry, you don't look at that. You look at what you want to really eat. So I think we are so very different perception. So obviously, when you look at it, it's so individual. So one is the happiness and another is a unhappiness or pain. So one is pain and another is pleasure. So pain and pleasure, any pain you have immediate need of this. You want to release that pain. And any pleasure you want to take it as it is. So these are the three pairs of buying motives. Now decide whatever you have bought so far in your life, they will fall into this. It will not go anywhere else. So when you buy at the end or customer buys at the end, he will be able to really say, I think I need him. Because I have this kind of case going on. I need him. That pain will come. I need him. Right? As a result, so okay, I may lose something. So I need him. So I think these are the motives. These will push you to get the reasons. So these are the three pairs of buying motives whereby people buy. All of us buy. All of us.
Okay.
If you're asking a buying question.
Great. Okay. So I think the next one again is very interesting. I think one of the participants wants you to appoint them as your CA. The question comes right from the heart.
Don't do that mistake.
The question comes right from the heart. So what do you expect from your CA?
Okay. What do I expect from my CA? I expect from my CA, which I do. Number one, I before the year ends, I want him to really look at my total next year forecast. What suggestions he has for that. So he is my business partner. He's not a CA. So you have to create that kind of image of yourself that he's a business partner of yours. Because I am not having a function today which is disassociated from the business. Today, HR function is HR business. Production is production business. Everybody is creating value for me. So my business partner who is there as a chartered accountant, he also is to create value for me. I look at it this way. So if he's creating value for me, for my business, he's with me. So that happens when we have a discussion, that happens when you have a strategy, that happens when we have clarity, that happens when you have investment, whatever needs to be done for that. To the extent, one of my CA tells me, sir, you are not utilizing your per square feet, let's say, office to that extent. So issue is that I may like it, I may not like it. But basically, what is important for me to really get that kind of suggestion, which is useful for my business. Am I communicating?
Yes, correct. Okay. So coming to the next question,
yes,
it's a little bit of an extension of the previous question. Shall we make our clients our friends or not?
Yeah, I think you have to be with him, but not one of him. Am I clarifying? No. You have to be with him, but you should not become one of them. No. There's a subtle difference between being one of them and subtle difference with them. You are with him for the purpose of your expertise, not for the purpose of his expertise. No. If you are a forensic accountant, and a forensic accountant, you have given a suggestion, this is what is a bad thing, etc., etc. You identify the fraud, and the chief executive of that company, the management decides to sack him, and he is sacked. They go to the court, and the CEO says, because you have suggested I should be sacked. So the expert person chartered with the accountant says, I have suggested these are the fraud. Beyond that, I have no capacity to take a decision. So decision is not mine. So I'm with you for this purpose of identifying fraud, but I am not one of you to take decision. No. That's the difference. You can have a friend, you can have an associate, you can have a partner, but don't be one with him. Have with him, be with him. Be with him with your expertise, not his expertise. Because he has a much more expertise than you. He's managing a business, he's an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs keep on changing their stances very quickly. They are all often related to the environment. Today there's environment, I will change my stance. And they can do it, which you cannot, because you have stipulation, regulations, and everything with you. And you are so important person for any organization, because every day there are amendments coming in. Every day you are reading the amendments. All the time you are going into making yourself relevant. Now all that has to be given cheap. I don't accept it.
Okay. Paresh, I hope that answers your question, because I typed saying not clear. I hope this one answers your question. Okay. Moving to the next question, what do you think is the reason for young CAs not interested in individual practice?
Young CAs not interested?
Individual practice.
Because I think they feel two things are there. Number one is that risk. Very few people can take risk. Unknown, if it fails, what will happen? When they get a person along with them, then they say, okay, they are at least, if not mine, but I think there is some support for me. So somebody has a capacity constraint, somebody has a fear of doing it alone. So risk is a major factor. All people, those who start their own self, they have taken that risk, knowingly, unknowingly. Many times people don't feel a risk, they start and they obviously become successful. There are many people who start, but they don't become successful, and then the risk comes in there. So they never can do the business. So CAs, young CAs are looking at life, please understand, not profession. I am of the kind of generation where profession was bigger than life, which I understood later on. No, life is bigger than profession. And younger people are smart enough, they understand life is bigger than profession, so they look at the life. They don't look at only the chartered accountancy as a profession. That's where they want to do it, not alone, but along with others. Now, my suggestion, my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, Rian.
Great. Yeah, coming to the next question, of course, Kinnari has asked, can we get a recording of this session? Kinnari, this is on live. No, I think it's not on YouTube live. So, but there's a recorded session. You can get in touch with the office for a recording of the session. Coming to the next question, I think quickly we'll take a couple of more questions.
Yes.
Since you are business advisors, okay, if you please permit a general question. After online business, mall culture, how do you see the future of small businesses? I am told that many businesses have shut down.
Yeah. See, many businesses shut down because basically where there is a one-on-one transactions in the business, those businesses have got hurt. Where there's a hygiene issue, those businesses have got hurt. You have hospitality business, you have travel business, you have all these businesses, even the business development of people, those who are going into it, all these businesses have got affected. But all these businesses are cerebral businesses. They have not got affected. Like ours is a cerebral business. I don't think we are affected. On the contrary, during this phase, people have got accustomed to do the things in a smaller time. Earlier, if you used to take 5 hours or 2 hours, out of them something was going into transit also, travel also. I find you're much more better utilized of your time, and time is getting utilized properly. You also understand more than 1 hour or 1.5 hours. If I keep on talking, people don't listen to me. Their span of their understanding is with this. So I think business has really grown in this area, in this period, where there is a cerebral transaction or understanding transaction or group transactions are happening. I am managing 500, 400 people organizations today only on the online. It's becoming more of virtual. And even tomorrow, people are not going to go back to the old brick and mortar model. We are going to really have a hybrid model. Like you have seen TCS, Tata Consultancy has announced already up to 2022, they won't be having any business one-on-one. So I think people are getting into cost-effective ways of looking at a business. Am I communicating? Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question, and hopefully the last question for today, collection of fees is a big problem. What are your views on that?
Collection of fees. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there are two ways to look at it. One is we have to really be in the beginning. People look at your proposal, but they don't look at your fees at all. So I think you must have a fee separately given from your proposal. Discuss the fees. Don't feel shy. And discuss the timing. Don't feel shy. Because many people I see, they feel shy. How can I talk? And don't talk in piecemeal, like okay, 1 hour per hour, I'll spend so many hours. Let me see how many hours I spend. Depending on how many hours I'll spend, I will give you business. No. You have to very clearly tell people, look, it's like a Dhanno's dialogue, in Sholay. If I can't give gas to my Dhanno, then how will she work? So in that case, most important aspect is please give her priority and seriousness to your fees. We don't give seriousness and priority to your fees. Discuss with him. Okay, these are my charges, and I hope you're going to give me within first week of 5th or 7th. After that, maybe if you have any problem, please communicate to me before that. So I think I will leave one way to him. Please communicate to me, but I require this on today. That does not mean I'm going to stop your work because I'm a continuous worker. However, please understand that I need a kind of remuneration because as you are giving it to others, unless otherwise there's a situation in the organization where you find they cannot do it and they are not doing it. It's a separate issue. It's your discussion. But your fees, you must get it. At least to us, because ours is a milestone fees. And I prepare a milestone fees. You also can prepare a milestone fees. So milestone fees is, okay, this work is done like you do it with the internal auditor. I do the auditing, this is my auditing fees. So that's where milestone fees is not nothing to do with your continuous chartered accountancy. So you can look at milestone fees. You can look at success fees at the end of the year. If I save you so much income tax or so and so by my priority, out of that you will give me success fee, so much percentage. There many ways are there which you can really think about as an innovative way of looking at the fees. But fees have to come.
Wonderful. Okay, so that's the last question for today, Dr. Raja. Thank you so much for your wonderful time. I think and valuable time to incite all of us. I would request CA Gracie to give a vote of thanks on behalf of. Suhas, do you want to say something?
Yes, Suhas.
Yes. Thank you, sir, for sharing all your experiences and the tips and which you gave in by way of the answer to the questions were really useful, and that will create a real value addition to all of us present here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I am happy and obliged that you have been getting some value out of this session. Thank you, Suhas.
I would say it is invaluable.
We call it as a priceless.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Right. So over to you, Gracie.
Govindji. Nothing to say much. When Dr. Raja is speaking, I have not to say anything. for many years. So you please.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thank you, Govind. Thank you.
Right. So Gracie, you can go ahead.
Yes. Very good evening, friends. On behalf of BCAS and all the participants, it is my privilege to thank Dr. Smarta for sharing insights on the topic, creating value proposition for clients. He has readily agreed to give us this priceless service. Successful professionals do the same things differently. Whether in industry or practice, we all do professional work. From today, we will perceive our work taking into account the insights we learned today. In brief, I cannot thank Dr. Smarta enough. He has real solutions, readily usable. In his words, in life, you either have reasons or results. So surely from now on, we will do something to produce results rather than omissions. What we learn today will definitely be a guide to help us sustain and grow. Let us give him a virtual applause to express tons of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Yeah,
Gracie.
thank you, Gracie.
Yeah,
Thank you for that wonderful.
Thanks also
Thank
to
you.
all the participants and BCAS events team, Bilal, Javed, and also co-conveners Ryan, Mahendra Bhai. Thank you, Suhas, Govindji, Krishna Kumarji, Mihir. And with this, we end. Thank you.
Thank you, Gracie. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dr. Raja.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you for everyone, all the participants. Hope you all benefited from this.
Sincere thanks
Thank
to entire team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Govind. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. Bye.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. We could finish at 8 o'clock. Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Best time.
In
Well
time.
within time. Well within
Yeah,
time.
Dr. Smarta
Yeah.
really had a lot of patience with me.